Last Night in Soho, one of the most refreshing movies I saw in theater after a long time. So, where do we begin? 2021 was a year where moviegoers finally returned to the theaters in big numbers, and that's because studios returned to the theaters as well. The previous year, 2020, which marked the start of the pandemic, brought a lot of unforeseen circumstances, including closure of movie theaters. As a result, studios decided to delay a lot of their projects into 2021, and some even into 2022. During the summer, we finally saw the floodgates open, with consistent releases for movies and crowds coming, and during the fall, we finally saw some big budget franchises return that had been put on hold, including James Bond and Spider-Man. But even in a year with fewer releases, there were some movies that flew under the radar without much buzz, one of which being Last Night in Soho. Last Night in Soho by Edgar Wright is described as a psychological horror, and after seeing it in theaters, I have to agree. The film revolves around a teenager named Ellie who moves into the city to start college. After running into a few problems because of a new lifestyle, she finally settles in, upon which she starts having dreams of another person named Sandy, who is from the 1960s in the same town as Ellie. The movie then picks up from there, the story of Sandy to both us and Ellie, and then following along Ellie as she deals with the knowledge of knowing too much. You, the person watching this, need to watch this movie, for it is one of the best things I have seen in a long time for 3 reasons. The setting. Edgar Wright and the team have done a phenomenal job recreating the London of the 60s. From the streets filled with stylish cars and bright neon signs, to the costume designs of the characters, everything in this movie makes you feel as if you're there. The setting feels fresh. It's not something that you typically see in a lot of movies or TV shows coming out, especially that are set in that time period as well. I genuinely appreciate how realistic it comes on film. As someone that is unfamiliar with the 60s in London, I couldn't find any flaws at all, even though I tried my hardest to see if there were any slip-ups in technology, or the use of cars, or anything that the characters did out of context. But going back to the main point, I just fell in love with the world and how beautifully it's portrayed with its bustling nightlife and characters having fun. Well, almost. A part of me wanted to be there too, to experience it like how Ellie was experiencing it. While I'm not too into historical movies that take us back into wars or medieval times of the 1400s, 1500s, I did enjoy the throwback to the 60s. Much more refreshing than seeing just the current time period and a lot of other stuff coming out. Whether it's James Bond or Spider-Man or Fast and the Furious that are set in the present day, they start to feel a bit stale. Whereas Last Night in Soho introduces something fresh to us, something that we have not seen in a long time, and it's done a great job. Coming on to our next point is the music of this movie. Now, I'm not a big fan of musicals, I'll be honest. It's one of the reasons why I wish Encanto had an alternative version where they stripped out the music and just kept the plot, or reworked it somehow to just remove the songs. For some reason, I just can't handle it. I like to have my music separate from my movies. Whether it would have been good or not, I'm not sure, but the music is the only thing that's keeping me away from liking Encanto so far. Now, to my memory, this movie really only has that one main song that's played at one of the pivotal parts. But to my disarray, I actually enjoyed it. I thought I was going to dislike the music and think that it was going to ruin the flow or whatnot. I think it worked really well with the plot and supported it rather than taking you away from it and just having you bop to the music. It might be because when the music is playing, the characters are in a sequence that is driving the plot forward, as opposed to dropping everything and just dancing in a dream sequence. It's as if the plot is still progressing and you're getting to know what's going on more and more about the world even though there's music playing. And a lot of times I've noticed that music tends to take away from that. Here, this is not the case at all, and I can appreciate it. All in all, I enjoyed the music in this movie, and I think it suited it really well. The fact that this movie took something which I traditionally don't usually like, which is a song right in the middle of it, and made it work really well, makes me appreciate it even more. Now, coming down to our main point, which probably would be the main reason why I really fell in love with this movie, is simply because of its plot and its ending. I'm a sucker for movies that introduce new concepts with original plots that haven't been explored before. While I enjoy superhero movies and action-adventure flicks with a spy or an agent trying to save the world, sometimes it feels that That's all there is you get to see. Every once in a while, you come across a movie that tries to do something different, such as Cloverfield and Blair Witch Project, or a sensational like A Quiet Place. And I have to say, for me, Last Night in Soho is quite up there with the titles I mentioned. The plot feels like a refreshing take on a mystery and one that I haven't seen anything similar to before. I appreciate the concept of using dreams as a way to tell the story, which at one point makes you question what's real and what's not real. Not only do I applaud the creativity, but also the fact that it worked well. Not all creative plots work well, however. Coming up with a new idea and executing a new idea are two different things. Without spoiling the ending for anyone who is interested in watching it, I believe the last act of the film really tied the whole movie together and gave me one of the most satisfying ending and conclusions I have seen in a film. And I'm strictly basing this off the script. I felt full after the ending. I was in awe, to simply put, and that's all that I'm going to say about that. The ending will not disappoint. It is totally worth it to stay for the things it sets up. On a more technical level, I think the plot does a great job in having a consistent pace, having your characters develop and grow from each other and from experiences, and having enough screen time between Ellie and Sandy without making sure that they aren't overshadowing each other or that one is having less focus than the other. The side characters are also done well, and they're put in places where it would really drive the plot forward without utilizing them too much or making them too stupid for a comedic effect. Overall, I think the script was written very well, and it does the characters and the plot a justice. Without turning this into a full-blown review, I'll summarize what I have said. Last Night in Soho deserves your time. I believe it is one of the hidden gems of 2021. It had a great setting portrayed with a plot that supported it and kept you engaged, while also adding in music to set the mood right. I do wish the movie had more publicity, more buzz, because I do believe it is as good as thrillers such as Quiet Place. If there wasn't a pandemic, this movie would have done phenomenal. Not only that, but with the great word of mouth, I believe a lot of you would have seen it already if you haven't. It's unfortunate that this movie was put into this situation, but regardless, the directors turned out a great product for us to enjoy. Whether you got the chance to enjoy it in theaters or not, at least you'll be able to enjoy it for the near future, whenever you want. That being said, I think the cast did a great job. They put their top performance, and overall, it's an enjoyable flick, and I think, as I said before, everyone needs to watch it. If you watch the movie and like it, be sure to let me know. Till then, I'll see you guys next time.